Hello students, today's agenda is to check homework. We'll be learning about circumscribed circles and you will be able to do 8.4. Today students will be able to find the circumcenter and draw the circumscribed circle about a triangle. And so let's start with some information. To find the circumcenter, you need to draw the perpendicular bisectors of the sides of a triangle. For example, if this is a triangle in here, I have to draw the perpendicular bisector, which means that this side is cut into two equal parts and it forms a 90-degree angle when I draw that perpendicular bisector. That's what a perpendicular bisector is. And I would have to do that for this side, for that side as well, find its perpendicular bisector. And 2 is enough, but if you want, you can also find the perpendicular bisector of that third side. And they should meet at a point. All the perpendicular bisectors meet at one point called the circumcenter. That circumcenter is equidistant from the vertices of a triangle. So this point here is the same distance to here, and to here. Okay? This means you can circumscribe the circle about the triangle. What does that mean? That you can create a circle around that triangle and it's going to touch the three vertices. Okay, so for perpendicular lines, they always have opposite reciprocal slopes. Okay, so we're going to be using knowledge about slopes. Okay, just what is opposite reciprocal? Opposite means that it changes the sign. Reciprocal, it means that it switches the order of the numerator and denominator. So they switch like that. These are some examples so that once we start working with the triangles, it makes sense. So it's about rise and run or change on y over the change on x. Okay, so all of this is related to the slope. And the slope, let's say that for the first side of a triangle is 1/2 or 1/2. The opposite reciprocal would be if this whole fraction is positive, then it will change to negative. And the 1 goes to the denominator and the 2 that is in the denominator goes to the numerator. Again, 2 changes. The sign and the order of 1/2 is now 2/1. This is another example. If we have -2/3 for the side, then instead of negative, the fraction will be positive, and instead of 2/3, it will be 3/2. Okay, 2 changes. Again, the sign changes, and the numerator and denominator switch the order. One last thing before we go to the examples. Since it's a change on y over the change on x, that means that the slope will always move first on y, and then which is up and down, and then it's going to move on x because it's left and right. Okay, just because this change on y over the change on x. Okay, now that we have that information, let's get to the examples. And whenever you have a vertical side or a horizontal side, those are super easy. All you have to do to find the perpendicular bisector, again, it means that it cuts the side in half, but also it means that it will create a 90-degree angle. So all you do is, if it's vertical, you just draw the horizontal perpendicular bisector and it's halfway. So we can just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just draw your perpendicular bisector halfway, which is 1, 2, 3. So it's going to go through here and just draw that perpendicular bisector right there. So what does that mean? That this side is cut into 2 equal parts and that it's 90-degree angles. Okay, the same for this other side. Is horizontal, so all you have to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4. Then half of that is 2, so my perpendicular bisector is going to go through there and just draw that perpendicular bisector. Again, this means that this side is cut into 2 equal parts. They are congruent. And also that is forming a 90-degree angle right there. That would be enough. That's enough. That means wherever they meet, that's my circumcenter, and that circumcenter is the same distance to all the vertices. However, I do want to take this time to find the perpendicular bisector of this side so that we can practice with the slope. We're going to find the slope of the side. And we're going to divide by 2 so that we can find the midpoint. So let's find the slope and divide it by 2. So we always look at this side and we always start with the point on the left. Okay, since this is on the left, we're going to start counting. How do I get from here to here? Okay, that's how I find my slope. But remember, on the top is always up or down. And then on the bottom is going to go left or right. Okay, the slope is always first on Y, then on X. So up or down. So from here, I start going down. Not like this and like this. Not sideways and down, but rather down and then to the side. And we start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because it's going down, it's -6. Okay, that change on Y is -6. And then from there, I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Since it's going to the right, is +4. I divide by 2. And so -6 divided by 2 is -3. And 4 divided by 2 is +2. That will be just to find the midpoint, which is the next step. Find the midpoint. Find the midpoint. And so we are going to find it with the reduce in half. With half of what the slope is, we get half. That's to get to the midpoint. Okay, so we start again from the left. Okay, the point on the left. And we count -1, 2, 3. +2, 1, 2. That's my midpoint. The next step is to find the opposite reciprocal, meaning the new slope. Okay, find new slope with opposite reciprocal. And the opposite reciprocal of that -3/2, if it's negative, then it's going to be the new slope will be positive. Okay, it's positive. And instead of 3/2, it will be 2/3. So we found the new slope. And now with that, we're going to graph. With this new slope, we're going to graph the other point to find the perpendicular bisector. Okay, so graph perpendicular bisector. Put a note, start at midpoint that we just found. Okay, midpoint. One other thing that I want you to see is that whenever we have the two slopes, there is 4 numbers, but there is only 1 negative. Okay, only 1 negative sign should be involved. In here, we only the 3 is the only one that has a negative. The other numbers should not have a negative. Okay, okay. Again, let's recap. Let's go over what we did. The first thing that we did was to find the slope by counting from the point on the left. We count how many spaces on Y, how many on X, and that's our slope. We always reduce it in half, half of that and half of that. Then that helps us find the midpoint, so -3, 1, 2, 3, and +2, 1, 2. We find the new slope by changing the sign and switching the numerator and denominator. We're going to find where the perpendicular bisector crosses with the midpoint that we found is here. And then from there, we're going to go 2 spaces up we go 2 spaces up and 3 to the right. 1, 2, 3. And it's overlapped. I apologize about that. But again, from the midpoint, this helps us find the midpoint. From there, we graph the new slope. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And so we connect the midpoint with that point that we just found. Again, what that means is that this side is cut into 2 equal parts and that here you have a 90-degree angle. Is that what it means? But in reality, all we need to know is where do the 3 perpendicular bisectors meet so that I can draw my circle around that triangle. And I can feel that this is not a very good compass, so hopefully you have better luck. And hopefully this doesn't move around. Okay, so, oh, not so bad. You have to be very careful with these steps because that will definitely move your point somewhere else. For the next ones, it says first graph the point, then find the center of the circle that you can circumscribe about each triangle. Draw the triangle by finding those vertices. So -4, 1. In here, remember that first you graph x, which is to the sides, and then y. So this is different from the slope. So -1, 2, 3, 4. +1 is right there. -6, -3. -6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left. And -3 is going down right there. -2, -3 is -1, -2, -3 is right there. We connect the points to create our triangle. Okay, and now we start looking for our perpendicular bisectors. So again, the first one is if we have a vertical or horizontal. In this case we have a horizontal. All you have to do is count halfway and then just draw it opposite. And when it's vertical, all you have to cut it is horizontal. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Half of that is 2, so we just draw our perpendicular bisector through there. Okay, the next one, what I recommend is that if you're doing the work for this side, then do the work here, and for this side, do your work on this left side to keep yourself organized. And if you can, also use different colors. That will be easier too. Okay, so this slope is always for this side. It will be these 2 points. Always start the one on the left. Okay, which one is farther to the left? This one right here. So you count 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces down. That means -4 over 1, 2 to the right. We always divide by 2, and so the slope is -4 divided by 2 is -2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And now we're going to find the new slope. Okay, this will help me to find midpoint. And so again, we start from where we started at first. To find the slope, we started in here, so that's where we start to find the midpoint again. So 1, 2, 1. That's my midpoint. That's exactly halfway of the side. Okay, from there I'm going to find the new slope, the opposite reciprocal. So it's negative, it's going to be positive. 2 over 1 is going to be 1 over 2. And now that I have the new slope, I go back to my midpoint, and that's where I go from here. Remember, always up and down. Up and then to the side. Okay, so up 1 and 1, 2 to the side. And if you notice again, you have to see the 90-degree angle. You have to see kind of like a square in there. If this doesn't look like there is a 90-degree angle in here, for example, if you had done 1 to the side instead by mistake, and then 1, 2 in here, look at how it would look. Look at the angles in here. This is smaller and this is bigger. However, in reality, it should be the same. 90 degrees and 90 degrees. Okay, let me erase it. Okay, for this side, the first slope, again, which one is farther to the left? Oh, this point is farther to the left than this one. And so that's where I'm going to start counting for both to find my first slope and also to find the midpoint. So I start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. So 4 is positive because you're going up and positive because you're going to the right. We divide by 2. And so 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. This is to find the midpoint. To find midpoint. And so I count again from the left, okay? 1, 2, and then 1. That's my midpoint right there. After that, I find my new slope. Remember that M stands for slope. If this is positive, that means that my new fraction is going to be negative. And 2 over 1 becomes 1 over 2. 1 over 2. Now I start from my midpoint and I go down 1 space and 2 to the right. Okay, that's where my perpendicular is going to cross. I connect the midpoint and the new point that I found, okay? Where did the 3 perpendiculars meet? It's right here. This is the point that is equidistant to all 3. And so now I'm ready to graph. I put the point in the circumcenter where the 3 perpendiculars met. I open it to one of the vertices, and by doing that, it should meet with all vertices. Okay? It moved on me, but let's try again. Oh, there you go. Don't mind that. Again, 2 of these perpendicular bisectors are enough. I'm just doing the extra so that you can see me do more practice. The more you see it, the more you try it, the easier you'll get. But let's do the other one. 1, 3. Again, remember X first and Y second in here. Only for the slope, we do Y first and then X. -3, -1. -3, -1 is right here. 1, -3. 1 to the right, -3 goes down. We draw our triangle. I notice in here that I have one that is vertical. Those are the easiest one to find its perpendicular bisector. All you have to do is count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then halfway is 3, so 1, 2, 3. And that's where my perpendicular bisector will. Again, that means that these are equal and that these are perpendicular, meaning 90-degree angle. For the other 2 sides, they are diagonal, so for those we do have to find the slope. Again, from this side, these are the 2 points. I always start on the left and I start counting to get there, straight up and then to the side. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4 for Y and 4 for X. I always divide by 2 to find the midpoint. And so, and it's positive because it goes up and right, so also positive. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So again, I go back to the left, the point on the left, and I count 1, 2, 1, 2. That's my midpoint, okay? This helps me find the midpoint. And so from there, I'm going to do the new slope. The new slope is going to be the opposite, which is if it's positive, then it's now going to be negative. and 2 over 2 is just 2 over 2 again. From the midpoint, I go down 2 spaces because it's negative. So 1, 2, and then 2 to the right. 1, 2, it's right here. So my perpendicular bisector, you can just make sure that it crosses the other line. I can already see that my circumcenter is right there. Okay, the circumcenter where the two perpendicular bisectors crossed, this point is equidistant to all three vertices. Okay, again, 2 is enough. If you want, you can just start graphing if you understand it. I will be doing that one to make sure that you get that extra practice. Okay, so the original slope is going to be, again, this is my side. I always start on the left and then go straight down 1, 2, so it's -2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, so -2 over 4. Because you're going down and then to get to that point, okay? Down and to the right. We divide by 2. -2 divided by 2 is -1. 4 divided by 2 is +2. That's going to help me find midpoint, okay? This is to get to the midpoint, starting from the left again. Always starting on the left. Go down 1 and 2 to the right. -1, 2, so down and 2 to the right. That's my midpoint. Now I have to draw my new slope, which is always the opposite reciprocal. If this is negative, this will be positive. 1 over 2, 2 over 1. So from my midpoint, I go up 2 spaces and 1 to the right. And it's right on the circumcenter. I draw my perpendicular bisector. And we're ready to draw our circle. This goes in the circumcenter, and the pen or pencil goes on the vertex, any of the 3 vertices, on the vertex, I should say. You can do one side and then the other, or you can turn the paper. Sometimes that makes it easier. Okay, this is the end of the lesson. If you can please give us a thumbs up, subscribe around here. This is the link to the entire unit. Here you will find the next lesson. Now you're able to do 8.4 and have fun.